Today we'll read How to Love God. Ashokji, over to you.
Yes. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. How to love God. To love God in the most practical way is to love our fellow beings. If we feel for others in the same way as we feel for our own dear ones, we love God. If instead of seeing faults in others, we look within ourselves, we are loving God. If instead of robbing others to help ourselves, we rob ourselves to help others, we are loving God. If we suffer in the suffering of others and feel happy in the happiness of others, we are loving God. If instead of worrying over our own misfortunes, we think of ourselves more fortunate than many, many others, we are loving God. If we endure our lot with patience and contentment, accepting it as His will, we are loving God. If we understand and feel that the greatest act of devotion and worship to God is not to hurt or harm any of His beings, we are loving God. To love God as He ought to be loved, we must live for God and die for God, knowing that the goal of all life is to love God and to find Him as our own self. By Meher Baba, Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai, and thank you, Karthik, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Baba.
Thanks,
Thank
Baba.
you, Ashokji, for reading it. Yeah. So, we will actually pick up from where we left off 2 weeks back. So, we finished selfless service um, as of last week, the end of July. So, we'll start from deeper aspects of sadhana. Let me open that up on the discourses. There it is. And let's get started. Maybe I will read for a bit today, then we will rotate. Deeper aspects of sadhana. Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. Before that, subtopics in deeper aspects of sadhana, so that we know what we're getting into. Yeah. Transition to deeper aspects of sadhana. Diversity of sadhanas. Sadhana in a spiritual and material realms. Goal of spiritual sadhana. Perfect sadhana merges into the goal. Sadhana as partial participation in goal. Sadhanas of knowledge, action, and love. There is a subtopic on detachment, meditation, use of discrimination and intuition, importance of action. There is an illustrative story, selfless service, love, true effort to effortlessness. And then there's the story of the Kasturi Mriga. Finally, there is a goal of sadhana is self knowledge. So I know maybe some of this may be repetitive, as you might have read it or gone through it just last week, but I think it's worth it doing it slowly and in a way where everything is working correctly. So let's get started. First one is transition to deeper aspects of sadhana. For most persons, spiritual sadhana or practice consists in the external observance of rituals and ceremonies prescribed by their own religion. In the initial stages, such observance has its own value as a factor contributing towards self purification and mental discipline. But ultimately, the aspirant has to transcend the phase of external conformity and become initiated into the deeper aspects of spiritual sadhana. When this happens, the external aspect of religion falls into the background and the aspirant gets interested in the essentials revealed in all the great religions. True sadhana consists in a life that is based upon spiritual understanding, and it comes to a person who is truly keen about spiritual realities. Diversity of sadhanas. Sadhana must never be regarded as consisting in the application of rigid laws. Just as in life, there cannot be and need not be strict and unrelieved uniformity in spiritual life. In spiritual life, there is ample room for diversity of sadhanas. The sadhana that is useful for a particular aspirant is bound to be related to his sanskaras and temperament. And so, although the spiritual goal for all is the same, the sadhana for a given aspirant may be peculiar to himself. However, since the goal is the same for all, the differences with regard to sadhana are not of vital importance, and the deeper aspects of sadhana have importance for all aspirants in spite of their differences. So the actual sadhana itself doesn't matter. Sadhana in spiritual and material realms. Sadhana in spiritual realm is bound to be essentially different from sadhana in the material field because the end is intrinsically different. The end sought in the material field is a product that has its beginning and end in time. The end sought in the spiritual realm is a completeness that transcends the limitations of time. Therefore, in the material field, sadhana is directed towards the achievement of something that is yet to be. But in spiritual life, it is directed towards the realization of that which always has been, will ever be, and now is. So that's a good distinction of what the direction of sadhana is. Sadhana is done to get something. That something is whether it's yet to be or whether it's infinite and existing ever. Goal of spiritual sadhana. The spiritual goal of life is to be sought in life itself and not outside life. Thus, sadhana in the spiritual realm has to be such that it brings one's life closer to the spiritual ideal. Sadhana in the spiritual realm does not aim at the achievement of a limited objective, which may have its day and then ingloriously disappear forever. It aims at bringing about a radical change in the quality of life so that one's life permanently becomes an expression of the truth in the eternal now. Sadhana is spiritually fruitful if it succeeds in bringing the life of the individual in tune with the divine purpose, which is to enable everyone to enjoy consciously the bliss of the God state. Sadhana has to be completely adapted to this end. The end being, and I repeat, sadhana is spiritually fruitful if it succeeds in bringing the life of the individual in tune with the divine purpose. And what is the divine purpose? Which is to enable everyone to enjoy consciously the bliss of God's state. Sadhana has to be completely adapted to this end, right? So, perfect sadhana merges into the goal. In the spiritual realm, every part of sadhana must aim at the realization of the spiritual goal of securing godliness in all phases of life. Therefore, the different aspects of spiritual sadhana will, from one point of view, represent different gradations of spiritual perfection. Sadhana is perfect to the extent to which it expresses the spiritual ideal, that is, the degree to which it resembles the perfect life. Thus, the greater the disparity that exists between the sadhana and the ideal at which it aims, the less perfect it is. The less disparity that exists between sadhana and the ideal at which it aims, the more perfect it is. When sadhana is perfect or complete, it merges into the goal, a spiritually perfect life, so that the division of means and ends is swallowed up in an inviolable integrity of indivisible being. So the goal itself merges into the action. The relation between spiritual sadhana and the end sought through it may be contrasted with the relation that exists between them in the material field. In the material field, the end usually falls more or less entirely outside the sadhana through which it is secured. And there is a clear disparity of nature between the sadhana and the end achieved through it. Here, the subtitle is Sadhana as partial participation in goal. Thus, Pulling the trigger of a gun may become a means of killing a person, but killing someone is essentially different from pulling of the trigger. In the spiritual realm, however, the sadhana and the end sought through it cannot be completely external to each other, and there is no clear disparity of nature between them. In the spiritual realm, it's not possible to maintain an unbridgeable gulf between sadhana and the end sought through it. This gives rise to the fundamental paradox that in spiritual life, the practicing of a sadhana in itself amounts to a partial participation in the goal. Hence, it becomes understandable why many of the spiritual sadhanas have to be taken seriously as if they were, in themselves, the goal. So, any comments? There is a subtlety here. So, the 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 sadhana itself cannot be beyond a point distinguished from the goal. That's the point. That's the concept that's being brought out here. Sadhanas of knowledge, action, and love. Yeah. Any comments, Sanjay?
Yeah, yeah. I think that, yeah, about the spiritual sadhana, that's the comment
Yeah.
about the spiritual sadhana. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's continue then. Sadhanas of knowledge, action, and love. In its deeper aspects, spiritual sadhana consists in the following: the yoga of knowledge, dhyan; two, the yoga of action, karma; and three, the yoga of devotion or love. The sadhana of knowledge finds its expression through the exercise of detachment born of true understanding, the different forms of meditation, and the constant use of discrimination and intuition. Each of these modes through which spiritual knowledge is sought or expressed requires explanatory comments. Detachment. The individual soul is entangled in the world of forms and does not know itself as one with the being of God. This ignorance constitutes the bondage of the soul, and spiritual sadhana must aim at securing emancipation from this bondage. External renunciation of the things of this world is therefore often counted among the sadhanas that lead to liberation. Though such external renunciation may have its own value, it is not absolutely necessary. What is needed is internal renunciation of craving for the things of this world. When craving is given up, it matters little whether the soul has or has not externally renounced the things of this world, because the soul has internally disentangled itself from the illusory world of forms and has prepared itself for the state of mukti or liberation. Detachment is an important part of the sadhana of knowledge. And detachment is one of the first things that you come up with naturally when you understand true values. When you look at life and actually understand the true nature of all the things around you, gradually and naturally, you automatically start detaching yourself, right? So I think,
Hey,
and
Baba.
yeah,
If
go
you can
ahead.
just go up, that's the intersection of three: dhyan, karma, and
Yeah.
that's. I mean, if you can just read this first line
So
again.
it's not an intersection. It's three aspects. And maybe intersection in a Venn diagram sense is possible because there is very common, I mean, limited commonality between the three. But there are three ways of sadhana, and that's what is being mentioned as yoga of knowledge, the yoga of action, and yoga of devotion. The only other place this is handled in detail is infinite intelligence, if you remember. Baba has specifically said the three paths are yoga, jnana, and bhakti, right? Uh, yeah.
Actually,
So
it's also there in the Parvardigar prayer, I think.
it's not in the Parvardigar prayer.
Infinite knowledge,
Doctor,
infinite. Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. Dr. Kama says something very interesting. What he says is the three paths, and the three paths are represented in the three prayers, not Parvardigar prayer. So Parvardigar prayer is the knowledge aspect because it tells you all the facts that all the religions have talked about in concept. Everything is there. So if you look at it, it is Upanishads, it's Vedanta, it is Jnana in the first part, which is the Parvardigar prayer. The second part is the repentance, right? So that he links to yoga of karma. What you have done, I'm saying I'm sorry. What I should do, how I should do, what I didn't do is the second part. The third part, which is the beloved prayer, the beloved God prayer, that he says is the pure bhakti marg. So the three margas, or he has inferred that Baba is hinting through the three prayers. So that's something I don't know whether he has discussed with you, but I find that to be very intriguing.
Beautiful. In fact, sometimes we should uh, also maybe read. Read the prayers once in a while.
Yes, I will remember that for next week. Yes, why not?
Jay Baba, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So after the three parts, the first thing that is mentioned is about detachment. Now let's go to the next thing, which is meditation. Meditation is another means through which spiritual knowledge is sought. Meditation should not be regarded as some odd pursuit peculiar to dwellers in caves. Every person finds himself meditating on something or another. The difference between such natural meditation and the meditation of an aspirant is that the latter is systematic and organized thinking about things that have spiritual importance. Meditation as sadhana may be personal or impersonal. Meditation is personal when it is concerned with one who is spiritually perfect. A suitable object for personal meditation may be taken, according to the inclination of the aspirant, from among the living or past perfect masters or the avatar. Through such personal meditation, the aspirant imbibes all the divine qualities and the spiritual knowledge of the master. Since it involves love and self surrender, personal meditation invites the grace of the master, which alone can give final realization. So, the sadhana of personal meditation not only makes the aspirant similar to the master on whom he meditates, but also prepares his way to be united with the master in the truth. Impersonal meditation, on the other hand, is concerned with the formless and second, uh, impersonal meditation is concerned with the formless and infinite aspect of God. This may lead a person towards the realization of the impersonal aspect of God. But on the whole, this meditation becomes barren unless the aspirant has been duly prepared by the pursuit of personal meditation and a life of virtue. In the ultimate realization of infinity, there is neither the limitation of personality nor the distinction of the opposites of good and evil. In order to achieve realization, one has to pass from the personal to the impersonal and from goodness to God, who is beyond the opposites of good and evil. Another condition of attaining truth through impersonal meditation is that the aspirant should be able to make his mind absolutely still. This becomes possible only when all the diverse sanskaras in the mind, impressions, have vanished. As the final wiping out of the sanskaras is possible only through the grace of a master, the master is indispensable for success even along the path of impersonal meditation. So, the, the focus or the target of the meditation can be of two types, personal and impersonal. But the last line in impersonal explains that even though you may do impersonal meditation, the role of the master is very important. So the personal form or the personal attributes and focus on the personality of the perfect master is something that is not going to go without a utility. It's very, very useful and important. So, anybody doing meditation in this group?
Sometimes, yes.
And do you do personal or impersonal?
I didn't dwell on that, but this final line, if you allow me, or if you can read again, as the final wiping out of sanskara is possible only through the grace of a master, the master is indispensable for success, even along the path of impersonal meditation.
Perfect. Most important.
Karthik,
Yeah,
uh,
Praveen, go ahead.
since you asked about the meditation,
Yeah.
I was one of the person who was actually had been always unsuccessful, or I couldn't be doing it. I thought because whenever I sit and think of Baba, many kinds of thoughts comes, and I later on I gave it up at a very long back. Recently, after reading after going to the God Speaks videos and all. The Baba has specified a way of meditation, meditate through divine theme of creation.
Hmm.
So I was trying that from recent times, probably for last 1 month, and partially successful. Not completely, but partially successful. At least I'm getting, but I was able to concentrate on a particular point for a very long time and be disciplined in that aspect. Probably Baba is helping. Not
Very
probably,
nice.
surely he's helping. So that's something I was able to say. I'm able to say.
Very nice. Very nice. So, I think Baba was very, very particular about the divine theme meditation for his followers, and at various times has given little changed versions of how that has to be done. So, very nice that you're taking it up. And I think, see, we have an entire section on meditation that's coming up in the next theme.
Yeah,
So we
yes, yes.
will
I'm waiting for
explore
that.
yeah, we'll explore the different parts in that anyway. Personally, I always have not been very successful in meditation. Uh, that's maybe because of my nature or whatever. So, uh, having said that, it's good to know that a few of us are already trying and in a level of success with that. But we have to understand the principles. It's more than the see. I do not dispute the uh, wellness or health benefits of meditation. As human beings, we need some amount of uh, rest, solitude, quietening of the mind, especially in the complex lives that we live today with so much of stimuli. And meditation is a very, very good thing. I'm not talking about that now. I'm
Yeah,
talking about meditation from a
Yeah.
spiritual standpoint. Meditation as required and as suggested by Baba, right? So the first part, do whatever
Yeah.
you want to do. Do whichever type appeals to you. That's okay. That's good. That may be even required to make you a better person, a more quieter person, a more relaxed person, maybe help you sleep well, all of that. All the very best to you. Please do it. But what we are focusing on in the next theme, as well as what we are discussing now, is meditation, which can help you for spiritual progress. Yeah, Sanjay ji, you were trying to say something.
Yeah. I mean, yes, spiritually, yes, what we are reading and we have read before is needed for the spiritual progress. But even if you leave that part, even if you do meditation and try to see it from psychological and concentration of mind type of thing, how
Mm-hmm.
the psychologists talk about. So in the management also it is said that you have to have focus on one thing that you are doing. So typically our minds keep wavering. Even if we are in the meetings, we are thinking something else. We are
True.
trying to do multitasking. You know, our attention is not to the person that I am talking. I'm thinking something else. I'm just also listening to him. These kinds of things. So if we do meditation, even these benefits we gather, that focus on one thing at a time. And
Correct.
you are able to control your mind waving around many other things. In the same minute, we may be talking of something that I need to do in office, something of my son, something I need to eat during the day. My coffee is on my hand. I am eating something along. Everything is happening together. And that is one reason that psychologists have said that many people do not get the result that they want to achieve by doing things, because we are not focused enough in what we are trying to pursue. I'm making a planning sheet for a project, but I do some, half it and then leave it and then come again, do something else, take a break. Our focus keeps on wavering, you know, uh, and we lose the larger context because we are not focused. So that's what actually affects the way we do our daily chores and office, also at home, in relationships. I'm talking to my mother, but I am distracted at the television news that is on, and I've kept it on mute. You know that kind of thing I'm saying. So concentration and meditation is in that way very helpful. That's what I've heard people talking in the management talks or videos where we focus one thing at a time. Yeah,
Very
Baba.
good point. Very good point. For effective execution of any task, I think we have to have single-minded focus. And like I was saying earlier, I totally agree with you. We live we live in a focus-deprived world, right? The biggest thing I was reading somewhere, and I thought it was absolutely right. So, yeah, if you remember the earlier days, people give credit to the oil being the most precious commodity. Sanjay, you can relate to this, right? And why they did that? Because everything in the world needed oil directly or indirectly, right? So it was a good measure of where the world was. Do you even there is a proposal that now the greatest thing important to man is any guesses? Any guesses on what that is today?
One guess or one thing I
Data,
want to highlight,
data.
Karthik. If I, yeah, data is the
Very
new oil.
close.
Data is the
No, no,
new
very
oil.
close, but that's old.
But
Even more specific than data is attention. So if you're able to
Yeah,
get person's attention, it is money today. So if you get followers
correct,
on
correct.
a particular
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
channel, it's money today.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely,
more than data,
absolutely.
it is attention, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is a
yeah,
sad
yeah.
reality, like you said, Sanjay ji,
It's a
that attention is the
competition
most
for attention.
yes,
Yeah,
attention is the most
there is a
difficult
competition for the
thing we
attention.
get, we humans are struggling to keep because we are distracted
Right,
by so many things, not just by our mind which is capable of processing multiple things, but the nature of our
right, right.
current modern lives. Our current modern lives give us so much stimuli. Earlier there were only books,
Correct,
there were
correct.
only
Call it.
your mind using those ideas. Our devices today are seeking so
Yeah,
much of our
everybody
attention,
is
it's
extracting
unbelievable.
attention from our time.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Your
Toma
watch is
that they
telling
call
you
it, top of the
something,
mind
your phone
attention.
is telling you something. I'm working on the project plan, like you said. I'm doing a planning
Yeah,
sheet.
yeah, yeah.
At the same time, phone is saying something.
Yeah,
It's
correct,
unbelievable.
correct.
It's complicated. We have
Absolutely.
created the complication. I'm not saying it has happened,
Yes, yes.
but the reality is attention is the most precious commodity today.
absolutely,
Right?
Karthik, if I may add,
Absolutely.
we require
Yeah,
an hour or two of screen fast. Like we
yeah,
do, upvas or fast. We require a screen fast. And allow me to take 2 minutes. Can I? The importance
yeah.
of taking Baba's name is mentioned in Lord Meher online, page 4964. So it says the importance of taking Baba's name. Baba stressed the importance of constantly taking his name. Repeat
Mhm.
my name every second, every moment. If it becomes so natural in your subconscious automatically, it will come out during moments of difficulty to help and save you. Think of me more and more, and all your worries will dwindle into nothing, for they are really nothing, and my will works out to awaken this in you and in all. Lord Meher Online, page 4964, The Path of Love, page 118. These are golden words by Meher Baba, as mentioned by the trust. That's the
Yes, yes.
AMB PPCT. J Baba.
And in my wish,
Oh,
last one of the my wish, even I say with my divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name. So, how will you say it at the last time? You'll say it only if you keep saying it as often as possible, right? So, yeah, unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moment. So, importance of prayer, importance of Baba's name, yes. Anyway, we are a little bit all over the place, but let's come back to
yeah.
uh, what we were trying to focus on. We started with the concept of attention, and we went there because we were trying to discuss on the topic of how important is focus, how important is conditioning the mind to be able to concentrate and do stuff in a focused manner, right? So that's all. That's universal, not just for spiritual or material.
Yeah,
But
Dolly.
yeah, no, no, okay, yeah. So let's continue then. Use of discrimination and intuition. Discrimination, the for those of you on the Vedantic exploration, either now or earlier, the word is Viveka, right? Viveka, and intuition is Baba's word. I mean, we know intuition well. The sadhana of knowledge or gyan remains incomplete unless the aspirant exercises constant discrimination and unveils his highest intuition. So, first he has to exercise constant discrimination, viveka. Viveka is basically applying your mind before doing anything, thought, word, or deed, right? So, even before doing an action, indulging in a thought, or in actually saying something, in all those three steps, you have to use discrimination. Discrimination is applying your mind to classify it as the right thing to do or not to do, right? Um, yeah, realization of God comes to the aspirant who uses discrimination as well as his intuitions about true and lasting values. Infinite knowledge is latent in everyone, but it has to be unveiled. The way to increase knowledge is to put into practice that bit of spiritual wisdom a person may already happen to have. The teachings that have come to humanity through the masters of wisdom and the inborn sense of values that the aspirant brings with him shed sufficient light upon the next step the aspirant has to take. The difficult thing is to act upon the knowledge he has. One of the best methods of adding to one's own spiritual wisdom is to make use of the knowledge one already has. If the sadhana of knowledge is to be fruitful, it must be implemented at every step by due emphasis on action. Everyday life must be guided by discrimination and inspired by the highest intuitions. So, not just will you need to have viveka, you should learn and master the technique of listening and acting upon your intuition. I just realized I've been hogging the reading part, so we can rotate now. Anybody wants to take up from importance of action?
I can
Uh,
join if
yeah,
somebody.
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Uh, Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai. The
Yeah, please go ahead.
importance of action subtopic. Karma yoga or the yoga of action consists in acting according to the best intuitions of the heart without fear or hesitation. In sadhana, what counts is practice and not mere theory. Sound practice is far more important than theory. So there is bridging of theory with practice.
Yeah,
Practice based upon right knowledge will, of course, be more fruitful, but even a mistake in a practical direction may have its own valuable lessons to bring. Mere theoretical speculation, however, remains barren even when it is flawless. There is a person who is not very learned but who sincerely takes the name of God and does his humble duties wholeheartedly may actually be nearer to God than one who knows all the metaphysics of the world but does not allow any of his theories to modify his everyday life. So I think this message also comes in Baba's other message that don't ignore your daily responsibilities.
yeah.
Karthik, you'd like to add because you have a good commentary or way of saying, So I'll read. If you can add any commentary or comments, I'll be grateful.
Sure, sure. I will jump in if there's any
Yeah,
commentary.
please, because I'm just
It's
concentrating on
it's
reading.
the yeah. Just an example of Valmiki, which comes that he was a dacoit, used to loot, and finally he met a saint who asked him to say Ram Ram Rama. Then he used to say Mara 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 Mara, and then he ultimately attained freedom, whatever we may call it. So that's an example of the action, even if it is uh, action has to be right.
Yeah,
That's the importance of action Baba is giving. Yeah. Than just a theory. Yeah.
Next
correct.
subtopic: illustrative story. The difference between the comparative importance of theory and practice in the realm of sadhanas may be brought out by means of a well known story of an ass. An ass who was plodding along a road for a long time and was very hungry happened to see two heaps of grass, one at some distance on the right side of the road, and other at some distance on the left side of the road. Now the ass thought that it was of utmost importance to be absolutely certain which of the two heaps was clearly the better before he could intelligently decide to go to one heap rather than the other. If he decided without thorough thinking and without having sufficient grounds for his preference, that would be impulsive action and not intelligent action. Therefore, he first considered the distance at which the two heaps were respectively placed from the road he was treading. Unfortunately for him, after elaborate consideration, he concluded that the heaps were equally distant from the road. So he wondered if there was some other consideration that might enable him to make the right choice and speculated upon the respective sizes of the heaps. Even with his second attempt to be theoretically sure before acting, his efforts were not crowned with success because he concluded that both heaps were of equal size. Then, with the tenacity and patience of an ass, he considered other things such as the quality of the grass. But as fate would have it, in all points of comparison he could think of, the two heaps turned out to be equally desirable. Ultimately, it happened that since the ass could not discover any deciding factor that would make his preference appear theoretically sound, he did not go to either of the two heaps but went straight ahead, hungry and tired as before, and not a whit better off for having come upon two heaps of grass. If the ass had gone to one heap without insisting upon the theoretical certainty of having chosen wisely, he might perhaps have gone to the heap that was not as good as the other. And despite any mistakes in his intellectual judgment, he would have been infinitely better off from a practical point of view. So, does this imply to sort of a paralysis of analysis? Or I don't know.
Yes, perfect. It is analysis paralysis. And I did not think of this earlier, but I'm very intrigued by the choice of animal chosen for this example. So I think the commentary is actually on us. So as humans make fun of, right? Humans make fun of asses. And in fact, it is used as a derogatory term to refer to people who are not very smart. And Baba is, I think, pointing out to us that we are the asses, right? So he also says, right, uh, uh, as with the tenacity of the patient, then with the tenacity and patience of an ass, he considered other things such as the quality of the grass. Anyway, that's on the lighter vein, but I think what you said, Ashok, makes a lot of sense. It's basically too much of analysis with not enough focus on action can be very costly. So can leave you badly positioned, not just in spiritual term, which is obvious, which is what is the first point, even on the practical term. So in this example, it also continues to be hungry. The ass didn't even get the food, so it lost out there as well. So that's the point that I'd like to take away from here.
I think we can use the.
Yeah, it also, I also am reminded of the uh, message by Baba that all paths lead to me. So suppose I want to focus on meditation. There are 6 types of meditation. If I keep on doing analysis, what is right for me and what is not, then I won't do it. So you have to start somewhere with the best judgment and Baba, leave the results to Baba where he'll guide us. You know, the, the action, beyond the point, the action becomes more important than just doing the analysis. Yeah. Jai Baba.
Brilliant,
Absolutely.
brilliant, Sanjay. Just do it. I think it's the Nike symbol. Just do it.
Yeah. No, no, that's dangerous because if you take it literally, you may do it without viveka. So
How?
I mean, it's not, don't jump to action, but don't ignore action. I would say, I would temper the use of just do it. Just do it is what half of humanity is already doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You do it with a plan and with conviction that.
With enough or adequate use of discrimination,
Oh yes.
not
Right.
over analysis. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Continuing. In the spiritual life, it is not necessary to have a complete map of the path in order to begin traveling. On the contrary, insistence upon having such complete knowledge may actually hinder rather than help the onward march. The deeper secrets of spiritual life are unraveled to those who take risks and who make bold experiments with it. They are not meant for the idler who seeks guarantees for every step. Those who speculate from the shore about the ocean shall know only its surface, but those who would know the depths of the ocean must be willing to plunge into it.
A very good analogy, right? So you can keep speculating and standing on on the shore, but then you have to get into the water. Only then, you will understand. Yeah.
Selfless service, the next subtopic. Fulfillment of the sadhana of karma yoga requires that action should spring from the perception of the truth. Enlightened action does not bind because it is not rooted in the ego and is selfless. Selfishness represents ignorance, while selflessness is a reflection of the truth. The real justification for a life of selfish service is to be found in this intrinsic worth of such a life and not in any ulterior result or consequence. The paradox of selfless action is that it actually brings to the aspirant much more than could ever come within the purview of ignorant selfishness. Selfishness leads to a narrow life that revolves around the false idea of a limited and separate individual, whereas selfless action contributes toward the dissipation of the illusion of separateness and turns out to be the gateway to the unlimited life where there is realization of all selfness. They're highlighting all selfness in italics.
Yeah.
When a person,
Selfness in all or all selfness is the progression from selfishness to the end goal of God realization. So that state is referred to also as recognition of the selfness in all, right? Or the all selfness. So you realize that everybody is the same and you go to the God state. Yeah,
all are one.
correct.
There's a nice song by the Sufism.
Yes, it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful song, and yeah, it just reminded me of that. Anyway, when a person has maybe lost and what he desires to have may never come to him, but if he parts with something in the spirit of an offering to God, it has already come back to him. Such is the sadhana of karma yoga. Next subtopic is love. Even more important than the sadhanas of knowledge, dhyan, and action karma is the sadhana of love, bhakti. Love is its own excuse for being. It is complete in itself and does not need to be supplemented by anything. The greatest saints have been content with their love for God, desiring nothing else. Love is not love if it is based upon any expectation. In the intensity of divine love, the lover becomes one with the divine beloved. There is no sadhana greater than love. There is no law higher than love. And there is no goal that is beyond love for love in its divine state becomes infinite. I'll, allow me to read this again. There is no sadhana greater than love. There is no law higher than love. And there is no goal that is beyond love for love in its divine state becomes infinite. God and love are identical, and one who has divine love already has God. Through effort to effortlessness, love may be regarded as being equally a part of sadhana and a part of the goal. The intrinsic worth of love is so obvious that it is often considered a mistake to look upon it as a sadhana for some other end. In no sadhana is the merging of God so easy and complete as in love. When love is the presiding genius, the path to truth is effortless and joyous. As a rule, sadhana involves effort and sometimes even desperate effort, as in the case of an aspirant who may strive for detachment in the face of temptations. In love, though, there is no sense of effort because it is spontaneous. Spontaneity is the essence of true spirituality. The highest state of consciousness in which the mind is completely immersed in the truth is known as Sahaj Avastha, the state of unlimited spontaneity in which there is uninterrupted self knowledge. One of the paradoxes connected with spiritual sadhana is that all effort of the aspirant is intended for arriving at a state of effortlessness. So another story, the story of Kasturi Mriga. There is a beautiful story of a Kasturi Mriga or musk deer that brings out the nature of all spiritual sadhana. Once, while roaming about and frolicking among the hills and dales, the Kasturi Mriga was suddenly aware of an exquisite, beautiful scent, the like of which it had never known. The scent stirred the inner depths of its soul so profoundly that it determined to find the source. So keen was its longing that, notwithstanding the severity of cold or the intensity of scorching heat by day as well as by night, the, the deer carried on its desperate search for the source of the sweet scent. It knew no fear or hesitation, but undaunted went on its elusive search until at last, happening to lose its foothold on a cliff, it had a precipitous fall resulting in a fatal injury. While breathing its last, the deer found that the scent that had ravished its heart and inspired all its efforts came from its own navel. The last moment of the deer's life was its happiest, and there was on its face inexpressible peace. Any
I'm
comments?
sure I'm sure we have come across this in multiple discussions, and maybe even others have come across this example. So what we are looking for is within us, and we keep striving to seek something that is unattainable, something that is so complex and so far away, but it's right there. That's the point that this illustration brings out.
Beautiful. Goal of sadhana is self-knowledge. All spirituals, all spiritual sadhanas of the aspirant are like the efforts of the Kasturi Mriga. The final fructification of sadhana involves the termination of the ego life of the aspirant. At that moment, there is a realization that he himself has, in a sense, been the object of all his search and endeavor. All that he suffered and enjoyed, all his risks and adventures, all his sacrifices and desperate strivings were intended for achieving true self knowledge, in which he loses his limited individuality, only to discover that he is really identical with God, who is in everything. Wow.
So, yeah, beautiful. So that brings us to the end of deeper aspects of sadhana. So let's go to the next one.
That is the
Work for the spiritual freedom of humanity. Right. So the the subtopics here are the cry for freedom, kinds of freedom, limits of freedom, and spiritual freedom alone is unlimited, importance of spiritual freedom, and there is a reference to true service and the way to help others attain spiritual freedom, and finally the call. So let's get to 340.
The page is 340,
Yeah.
and it would be. Does anybody want to read? Because, oh yeah, should I continue?
You can continue,
Okay.
given you barely started. Anybody else can come up. Shekhar, you've been quiet. I have also not asked you anything for last few
Jai
meetings.
Baba.
Glad to see you
Yeah.
join. Please feel free to ask your questions. Ask anything that comes to mind. Please comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shekhar is
Sure.
from Dubai. I think Sanjay, you met him. And Sanjay Kama, he came to Mehrabad during, was it Silence Day?
Wow.
Amar
No,
Yeah.
Titi.
Yeah.
Amar Tithi, yes.
Amartiti.
Amar,
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Hey Baba.
Jai Baba.
Because I'm generally there on every Amar Tithi. we should meet. And welcome
Yeah.
to this. And so it's page 340. Work for the spiritual freedom of humanity. The next subtopic is cry for freedom. All over the world, the spirit of man is crying out for freedom. Love of freedom and the search for freedom are the principal characteristics of humanity. In all races and in all climes, in all countries and at all times. The watchword for grouping and struggling humanity has always been freedom. There are very few persons, however, who really understand the full implications of true and unqualified freedom. And there are many who, in their partial understanding of the real conditions of freedom, strive only for the attainment of that kind of existence which gives them a sense of relative freedom. Thus, different persons long for different kinds of freedom according to the different things they have come to value.
So, what, according to you, are these lesser relative freedoms? So, there is the big freedom, and then there's the little freedoms. What are these sense of relative freedom
Freedom
that
from diseases, freedom from
exactly? So, freedom,
diseases, freedom, financial freedom, freedom from any
freedom
responsibilities,
from
worldly
government,
responsibilities is
freedom
also
from
freedom. Yeah,
yes,
as individuals, I am saying, but
freedom from oppressor, freedom from
oppressor, yeah,
employment, freedom
yeah,
from yeah, freedom from a patriotic or national standpoint. If you're ruled by somebody, freedom from being ruled, right? So
yeah,
all these are the lesser freedoms that motivate. See, we have to understand what Baba is saying here. What motivates you to act, or what is an aspirational aspect of human life, is freedom. And the end point is the real freedom, which Baba says is the real freedom, which is getting to the state of God realization. But the smaller freedoms are what are also something that all humans aspire for. And that aspiration is important because it creates a room for collaboration. I mean, it creates room for collaboration, co working, and effort towards getting that freedom. So it's important, but not the end goal.
Again,
yes.
Carlos.
But I
Let's
think
go
we
to
should also think about um the there are smaller freedoms that we must try to attain before we get the final freedom. It's like freedom from backbiting, for example, freedom from lust, freedom from anger.
yeah, even in
We
the
need
very
to
good,
set
very good. Yeah,
these smaller goals so that we can get closer to the final goal. So it's just
beautiful point.
action points are
So one
available
is the
for us to
material
achieve.
realm of lesser relative. Sorry, finish what you said.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. Continue. I'm done. Yeah.
Sanjay, some
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful
So that's what.
points.
So one is the yeah. Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm intervening. So LAG, I think it lags, it brings us down from, and that is lust, anger, and greed. That's been etched into my mind. And so I think Sanjay had some valid points about having good health and also financial freedom. So first they say is pehla sukh nirogi kaya. So you got to be uh, healthy, and duja sukh ghar mein maya. That means you got to have financial freedom. Once you have these two, then you're not worried about anything and leave everything to Baba. So it's all a progression of you know how you achieve freedom from all wants, and also how you free yourself from ego is what I.
I have a
So,
problem with your
correct,
second
correct.
goal.
So basically, yeah, basically you're talking of the freedom from the gross things. Yes, yes, that is important. And as long as we are in the body, we need to be concerned about it and try to free ourselves, not by gaining sometimes. It's the, it's also about the means that you are trying to gain financial freedom by earning more, gaining more wealth, or you are trying to live a simple life, which is, doesn't need that kind of thing. So that balance is needed, number one. So these are from the gross, and then you have mental things, that anger, greed, lust, and all these things. So these freedoms are the next level of freedoms. So that's what I would take it. Yeah.
Absolutely, Sanjay, you hit the nail. It's been a role, the role of minimalism, or shedding your wants is the path towards getting away from material world into the spiritual realm. Jay Baba. Uh,
Yeah. Continue. Yeah.
Kinds of freedom subtopic. Freedom to live as one wishes is sought in all spheres of life. This imperative demand for freedom usually expresses itself by fastening upon some external conditions of the kind of existence people wish to lead. Hence, those who identify their being with their country seek national or political freedom. Those who are animated by economic purposes seek economic freedom. Those who are inspired by religious aspirations seek freedom of religion. Those who are enthusiastic about sociological or cultural ideology seek freedom of movement and freedom to express the ideals that they cherish and wish to propagate. But there are few who realize that the basic freedom, which alone gives the stamp of true value to any of these kinds of relative freedom, is spiritual freedom. Even if all the external conditions of a free life were completely fulfilled and guaranteed, the soul of man would remain in woeful bondage if it failed to realize spiritual freedom. Limits of freedom, all the different kinds of freedom that fasten upon some external conditions must, in their very nature, exist within certain limits. For the freedom that an individual or community or state seeks must be consistent with a similar freedom for other individuals, communities, or states. National, economic, religious, or cultural freedom expresses itself in and by means of the duality of existence. It lives on duality and is sustained by duality. Therefore, it has to be relative and limited and cannot be infinite. It exists in varying degrees, even when it is won through persistent effort. It cannot be permanent attainment, since the external conditions have once been secured, are not secured forever, but are capable of deteriorating in the course of time. Spiritual freedom alone is unlimited. Only spiritual freedom is absolute and unlimited. When it is won through persistent effort, it is secured forever. Though spiritual freedom can and does express itself in and through duality of existence, it is grounded in the realization of the inviolable unity of all life and is sustained by it. One important condition of spiritual freedom is freedom from all wanting. It is want that fetters life through attachment to conditions that would fulfill that want. If there is no want, there is no dependence or limitation. The soul is enslaved through wanting. When the soul breaks asunder the shackles of wanting, it emancipates itself from its bondage to the bodies, gross, subtle, and mental. This is the spiritual freedom that brings with it the final realization of unity of all life and puts an end to all doubts and worries. importance of spiritual freedom. It is only in spiritual freedom that one can have abiding happiness and unimpaired self knowledge. It is only in spiritual freedom that there arises the supreme certainty of truth, self knowledge, and truth in capitals. It is only in spiritual freedom that there is the final ending of sorrow and limitation. It is only in spiritual freedom that one can live for all and yet be detached in the midst of all activities. Any lesser type of freedom is comparable to a house built on sand, and any lesser type of attainment is fraught with the fear of decay. Therefore, there is no gift greater than the gift of spiritual freedom, and there is no task more important than the task of helping others to achieve spiritual freedom. Those who have understood the supreme importance of spiritual freedom have not only to strive for it for themselves, but also to share the God given duty of helping others win it. I think the important point here is that we have to help each other and we have to help as much as possible we can others in the path of spiritual freedom. Any comments or any observations?
Yeah, I have a comment. Yeah.
Please go
I
ahead.
think it is important that we have our focus on the right place and what really brings us the real freedom, which in here Baba always talks about the spiritual freedom. And I know a lot of, I mean, either east or west or whatnot, people are involved sometimes, the spiritual people, Baba lovers, on some social activities or like, or even sometimes political and so forth. And like now the US, has its election coming and, in November and so forth, and already the heat is on and people are, even Baba lovers start on social media that, but if you really want to be a Baba lover and follow Baba, then none of this should matters. Okay, who rules and who doesn't? Who's my president and vice president, minister, this, that? It really shouldn't. There are people like Kartik, what you said, that already care about this stuff and put their even life on it, and so forth. So let them do it because that's where their consciousness is. They think those kind of freedom or a different president or a government will bring them some kind of a freedom. But it's like giving a little candy to a child just to make them happy, momentarily. Or like Baba said, building a house on the sand. We really shouldn't care about what's going on socially, politically, and so forth if we're really aiming for a spiritual freedom. And Baba is all knowing. I mean, we can't be in both sides. If we have our attention there in the world and also here in Baba's stuff, he knows that we're wandering around. So it's very important to have our focus on uh, spiritual freedom and attain it somehow. And it takes time. It's not like tomorrow or next lifetime. It takes time. But once the focus is there, we're moving, marching toward it. Yeah, Jay Baba.
I like that comment in the sense that everybody's motivations are different and they are led by their sanskaric makeup, and we need not minimize or mock, or rather we should just respect everybody's choices on what freedoms are important to them. and what level of commitment and effort they are able to put towards that freedom. We should respect that. And whereas realize that our focus should be on the spiritual freedom, right? I think I like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and then in terms of, sometimes I struggle with it in terms of communicating with people that what really brings you the real freedom is a spiritual freedom and have a one pointed attention on God and have Him bring you the spiritual freedom and so forth. And, if people are not ready to hear it, it's just you don't even know how to communicate and how to bring it to them. So many times I give up, I just become silent. I just don't communicate. And I don't tell them that you're wrong. Well, we can't. We shouldn't be telling people that you're wrong. But we can't also, I don't know how to help them in terms of helping others to win it, as Baba says here. Not until they're ready, Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And I think silence and stepping away from such context is a safer bet. Of course, if you're able to influence them and give them the bigger picture and explain true values and bring Baba into their life, that's more credit to you. I mean, that's what Baba wants, but it's not easy, and sometimes it's counterproductive. They might mistake you, they might accuse you of some other agenda, whatever, and it might make your life miserable. So use your discrimination and, like Mahu said, uh, step away sometimes. Yeah.
Jai Baba, just to extrapolate what Balasubramaniam and Meru was saying, my current understanding is based on these two chapters that we are reading. So there is basically the material freedom and spiritual freedom. So material freedom are more like Maslow's self-actualization, the food, shelter, clothing, reaching self-esteem, basically taking, fulfilling your duties and responsibilities in life as in my wish. We know that Baba only said that take my name once a day, and so you can remember me. So, but he emphasized more about duties and responsibilities, and also that this human body is given, the material body, gross, subtle, mental, so that consciousness can emancipate itself, and the material body can't live without consciousness. So we need to have material freedom so that you can focus 100% on spiritual freedom. Today we are very distracted with so many different kinds of, because of the technology era. And on the other hand, also that all of us come with a predetermined script, as we all know from reincarnation and karma. So to each his own sanskaras, mind your own business of sanskaras. And we know the 80-20 rule, golden rule. 80% people are incompetent in any organization, material or spiritual. And even in our Baba community, we have the two kinds of clubs, which I mentioned earlier, the BBC and the RBC, the blah blah club and the real Baba club. So it's fine. I think everybody is playing their role. The only difference is we are fortunate to be on the other side of the fence, but still we have a lot of work to do on ourselves. So we'll have to ignore all the noise and just focus on Manonash, Hey Baba.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think Manonash is the path. Anyway, okay, continuing true
Please.
service, the next subtopic. Those who are inspired by a spirit of selfless service are quick to render unto humanity all possible help through provision of the necessities of life, like clothes and shelter, food and medicine, education and other amenities of civilization. In pursuing the path of duty, they are not only prepared to fight for the weak against aggression and oppression, but also to lay down their very lives for the sake of others. All these types of service are great and good, but from the ultimate point of view, the help that secures spiritual freedom for humanity surpasses them all. It is insuperable in importance. Way to
So in contrast to what Mahu said, All these types of services are great and good, but from the ultimate point of view, the help that secures spiritual freedom for humanity surpasses them all. It is insuperable in importance. So, if you can, please indulge in helping others in the spiritual path. But I know it's easier said than done. And the numbers are against you. The number of people that you can confidently talk about spirituality and bring Baba to them is lesser than the numbers that you can talk and give advice. So somebody may listen to you if you give them financial advice. Somebody may listen to you if you give them life advice about how to manage relationships or how to do something more practical in a better manner. But the moment you start spirituality, many people switch off, right? So it's the toughest one to indulge in from a service standpoint, but that's the most rewarding from your personal progress standpoint.
Yeah, Jay
Yeah.
Baba, just to complete this, normally, if people are not ready to hear the spiritual comments, let alone about the God man, I don't make a comment about that because it's like, shh, it comes and bounce back. And so, maybe we can start with little talk, easy talk, and stuff like that till we generate trust, and so they trust us and so forth. But when people are in trouble, I would say, they tried many ways and it hasn't worked, and everything goes wrong, in their life. And of course, that's how Baba works, because little by little they need to learn from the life lessons. Then we can be there to open up a bit, just a little bit, and see what the response is. Just we gotta test the water like that.
Yes.
Yeah, just like that. Mhm.
Well said, Mahu. And there is one more practical tip which Baba has given. He said, "You just tell my name in and let it reach the ears of the person who listens. From the ear to the heart, it is my duty." So we can just propagate his name or mention about his name, and depending on every individual, his own, you know, path, Baba will bring him from the ear to the heart. That he has said is what I will do. We just have to spread the good word about Baba. I think it's difficult, easier said than done, as mentioned by others on this call, but we can at least attempt it.
Yeah, couple
Sure.
couple of things that I would like to add here is yes, that's what we must do. But ultimately, it also depends on who we really are in the true self, and how do we conduct ourselves in the society. Then, how do we are able to connect to people heart to heart? Our behavior in the society also determines that the people really listen to you, what you are saying. Are you different from the rest of the herd? So that is very important. We have to first of all have right knowledge to spread. We should be absolutely sure that what we are talking of. What we know, we should only say, and then rest we can explore ourselves and tell them later or ask them to explore further. That's one. And our conduct and our true being should be focused upon for us to spread the news of spread the Baba's name. That's what I would take it. Seva.
Beautiful, Sanjay.
Jai Baba,
We,
Jai Baba, I think that just to extrapolate on what Sanjay said, the seven Sahava sayings, the third postulate, real happiness lies in making others happy. Everybody knows about it, Baba lovers or non Baba lovers. But there are two postulates that Baba gave, which for me has made a very big impact. The only real desire is that which leads you to become perfect, so as to make others become perfect. The only real aim is that which aims you to help others become God by first attaining Godhood yourself. And having been listening to Nisargadatta Maharaj, because he's kind of fine tunes or polishes a lot of Baba's sayings, you don't have to do anything. You just focus on your own sadhana, spiritual sadhana, or spiritual and material sadhana. They are two sides of the same coin. And from my own experience, I've seen that you don't have to go out of your way. You don't have to proselytize. People come to you when they're ready. People come with material challenges, which can include psychological, physiological, psychosomatic, blah, 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 or even spiritual challenges. Having done a lot of spiritual shopping, they are still, very confused. So at that moment, when we are, helping them on a one-on-one basis, one can always take Baba's name, as Ashok said that, take his name. So we can say like, hey, you know what, this is somebody you can check out, So that has been my process currently. Jai Baba.
Yeah, and I think we will all get techniques and approaches through experience, right? Like Ashok said, like Kama said, there are different attempts that we can do, but making your progress is more important as well, and being the right example is what Sanjay said. You have to be an example that is worthy of emulation, and in fact, our conduct should start the process of inquiry in the other. The other should say, "Hey, how are you so good?" Or "Why do you do this?" Or "What motivates you to behave the way you did?" And that is a surefire way of getting the other person to adopt and be more open to spiritual advice. Otherwise, the material levels of advice, like all the different things that were said, are more easier to get. If you have done well for yourself, then he will listen to you about how to lead material life. But if he or she closely observes your actions and draws inspiration from it and seeks more information, that would be great as well. But overall, all these things are important. Good discussion. Let's finish off the few paragraphs that are there. And
Yeah,
yeah, please.
Jai Baba. Way to help others attain spiritual freedom. The next subtopic. The way to help others attain spiritual freedom is far different from the way of rendering other types of help. For the hungry, you can provide food and they have only to eat it. For the naked, you can provide clothes and they have only to wear them. For the homeless, you can provide houses and they have only to dwell in them. For those who are in agonies of spiritual bondage, however, there is no ready made provision that can give them immediate relief. Spiritual freedom has to be won by oneself, for oneself, through watchful and unfailing war against the lowest self and the lower desires. Those who would be soldiers in the cause of truth have to help all, not only in launching upon the thrilling enterprise of attaining victory over themselves, but also in every step they take toward that attainment. There is no other way of sharing their burden. The call. I have full confidence that you, my devotees, will share this burden. Many of you, for years together, have obeyed my orders and carried out my instructions through faith in me and love for me. You have stuck to me and my spiritual cause through storm and stress and thick and thin. Now the time has come for you to offer all your services in my mission of helping humanity tread the spiritual path and realize God. The eternal truth that God alone is real has to be clearly understood and unreservedly accepted, and it has to be unequivocally expressed through words and deeds. In the full realization of the truth, humanity shall attain spiritual freedom. No sacrifice is too big to set man free from spiritual bondage and help him to inherit the truth, which alone shall bring abiding peace to all, and which alone will sustain an unassailable sense of universal fellowhood, cemented by the ungrudging love of all for all as expressions of the same reality. Can I read this line again, please? No
Sure.
sacrifice is too big to set man free from spiritual bondage and help him to inherit the truth, which alone shall bring abiding peace to all, and which alone will remain an unassailable sense of universal fellowhood, cemented by the ungrudging love of all for all as expressions of the same reality. In this God willed, divinely planned, and predestined task of bringing spiritual freedom to humanity, you, my devotees, help me even at the cost of your lives. In your duty of helping others to find God, you have to welcome every type of suffering and sacrifice. Avtar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Is that the end of the chapter?
Yes, it is. Beautiful. I think um, we are getting closer to wrapping up on discourses. Uh, Maybe another month or so, we should be able to wrap this up. And then we take up God Speaks for another detailed read. God Speaks followed by Beams. So I look forward to that. Any closing comments?
Yeah, Jai Baba. I think the previous chapter that you read, where you talked about the Kasturi Mriga story and the As story, especially the Kasturi Mriga story reminds me of the essay Lover and the Beloved, which
Yeah,
is a very good example, analogical example to explain the lover and the beloved, where I love repeating this. To attain union is so impossibly difficult because it is impossible to become what you already are. Union is nothing but the knowledge of oneself as the only one self. So, this, what I do is personally, apart from the three prayers, which I try to read every day, Parvardiga, repentance, and the beloved prayer, I also read these three essays, the lover and the beloved, which is like a lover and bhakti yoga prayer. Purposelessness and infinite existence is like jnana yoga, similar to the Parvardigar prayer. And then you have forgive and forget, which is the most difficult, one of the most difficult human traits. And that relates to the prayer of repentance in a way. So I think that those chapters are very, very practical. And this chapter and the next chapter that you would be reading are much more like a template or a framework of if you want to contribute something to society or like after you've taken care of your material freedom and you want to do something like selfless service, how do you go about it? So it's a good template, these two chapters. Jai Baba.
absolutely. And then followed by that would be the qualifications of the aspirant. So tells you who can do it and the parts. There are four parts to that. Yeah, excellent. So may you all have a great rest of the weekend, the rest of Sunday, and have a great week ahead. And let's connect back in the coming week. May Baba be with all of you.
Tathastu. Thank you.
Jai
Thank
Baba.
you.
Jai
Bye
Baba.
bye.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.